Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview Play Like a Girl, the owner, Dr. Kimberly Clay. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you, Brandon.
Can you talk about, of course, how you knew that you wanted to start the Sports Foundation?
I often tell the story that, Play Like a Girl did not quite start intentionally, in that the initial program was part of my doctoral studies, and it just kind of stuck with the local community there in Birmingham, Alabama, which is where we're incorporated. And so, it lingered, it lived, it thrived for about 4 years while I continued my career in public health and went on to become a university professor at Georgia. And just one day, I awakened to the reality that what I had started was having a real impact in the community, and thus decided at that point to actually run our first after school program, because at that point we were mostly doing events a couple of times a year. And we actually received funding from the Hall of Famer, cowboy player, Emmett Smith and his family foundation. And that's honestly what changed everything for Play Like a Girl. And so we expanded to Dallas, Texas. We now are headquartered in Nashville, and it's been now 17 years since I started that little project that has, yes, become a national nonprofit.
How was it like, obviously, getting funded, by Emmett Smith, the Hall of Famer?
Yeah, pretty exciting. I lived in Dallas at the time. So I would say that us locals probably took Emmett and his celebrity for granted, because, he was at that point a hometown boy, even though he is rooted in Florida. So there was that sense of normalcy with it, because he and his wife at the time were so actively involved in the community. They supported one of the schools where we actually ran programming, where my boys happened to also be students. So Emmett was very touchable, very real, very active and engaged in the community. So it didn't come as a surprise, because they were doing real work, making real impact in Dallas themselves. And so to be the benefactor of that as a nonprofit, funded to continue some work to introduce our first real, organized sport program, was huge. So I now give credit always to Emmett and Pat Smith, and just the amazing things that they were doing and have done and continue to do. But them really breathing new life into Play Like a Girl at a time where it was critical that I think our public visibility be elevated, because right after that followed attention by ESPN and ESPNW. And often I say, what followed is what really reset our trajectory forever.
Can you talk about, of course, that moment that ESPN and ESPNW took over and obviously saw what you all are doing and broadcast it?
Yeah, so, I was not familiar at the time with the amazing work that ESPNW, which is the women's arm of the brand, was doing. By and large, I, followed the hashtag. I, followed their page on social media, Twitter in particular, seen some of their stuff, but how I came into the community of ESPN was through its Women in Sports Summit, which is now probably in its 12th or 13th year. It takes place every October, and it's a convening of elite women athletes, their brands, their managers, their teams, and everyone who wants to do business with them, in essence. And so Toyota, who was long term partner and sponsor of this particular meeting, chose the year before to introduce a new program to celebrate women who were doing extraordinary things in their local community, specifically to engage girls and women in sport. And it just so happened that that was the entryway into this magnificent community, and almost like an underworld to me, because I didn't grow up playing sport. I grew up in a black and white world in small town Mississippi, where even today we still have a black and white pool in town, a black and white park in town, public park. So that was my reality. So the only sport available when I was coming through high school was, in essence, track and field or basketball, and neither of them really interest me. So me not being in this world of sport at the time, um, it was almost an unveiling of a world that I really didn't know or understand at the level that I now know and understand and feel a huge part of. So it was an altering moment. When you know a brand like, ESPN and ESPNW, but then I think it takes on a completely, and for me, it took on a completely different experience as I continue to go back. And that was in 2014. And so every year since, I've been a part of that community, actively involved, speaking on program on the national stage, convening work groups between the meetings, which are annual in October. So really getting into the work that happens behind the scenes throughout the year with ESPN and ESPNW. Um, it's revolutionary. It's transformative. I leave, hyped and focused on the one thing that I can accomplish for the year. And come back and celebrate it with all the other women who are a part. So, yes, the first moment was a moment, but God, when you're in that type of community, every moment is a moment. So the experience is redefined literally every single time I engage with the ESPNW community.
What was it like, obviously, going from Dallas and relocating to Nashville?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm in a tricky little situation in that I am now partly living between the two cities. I actually split my life now between Dallas and Nashville. I am a Southern girl. So, what I do know is, though, Texas is its own country. Good, bad, in between, whatever you want to claim, but it is its own country. Everything is big in Texas, and in Dallas, even bigger. I enjoyed my time in Texas. I probably enjoy it better now. At the time, my kids were small. They were in private school. Our commute was 45 minutes one way into the city. My husband is a pediatric cardiac intensivist. He now runs that unit for Medical City Dallas, which is why we're kind of splitting life between the two places. But Nashville for us was coming home. Nashville is our permanent residence. It will be, where we hope to rest into eternity one day, and perhaps our kids to, be able to call home. It was a pivotal moment in our experience where, again, it was really critical to cementing the boys' discovery of themselves, life, and family as they grew out of elementary school into middle and high school. So they've graduated from here, going on to college, one in college. So Nashville feels more like home. I grew up outside of Memphis. My husband on the other side of Mississippi, outside Tuscaloosa, Alabama area. So our experience at home was one that we cherish, and our boys, spent their summers going home and spending months with their grandparents and cousins. So that was important to us. But we're not quite Mississippians anymore. We do like some of the benefit of the larger city, the hustle, the bustle, the crazy of it all, the convenience of it all. Although we live in the sticks in the suburbs of Nashville here, we get the benefit of living in the city in Dallas. So it's a great, toss off now that we have the blessing and ability to live in the two lives. But certainly I would say Nashville has my heart because Nashville is closer to home, closer to family. And so the transition back from Dallas wasn't as stark, perhaps, because we were just at a different phase in life. And now we have an opportunity to do it again.
Can you talk about, of course, how you started Play Like a Girl and how the name came about?
Yeah, so when we first started Play Like a Girl in 2004, it wasn't under that name. A lot of the work we were doing was especially focused on women of color and their daughters. And so we actually were founded under the name Sister Bration. We did a lot of church-based work, also building relationships among women and girls in the community. And then in 2010, when we started programming in Dallas, we actually were running some programs in after school and really wanted to be able to serve a much broader community of people in terms of, how we were branded, how we were perceived in our community, how people interpreted us even before we would walk in the door. And we, at the time, were running a program called Run Like a Girl, an after school marathon based program. And I was working with a branding agent, and she recommended, hey, consider perhaps changing the name. We can go in a number of directions. And I fought it because Sister Bration was so well known and so well liked. It was so who we were. And literally one day while driving up the North Texas Tollway, it hit me, play like a girl. And I immediately went home to my home office and I started the trademark process. I knew that. I purchased our URLs and, went ahead and did the social media handles. At the time, playlikeagirl.com.org.net was not available because it was a part of an old Nike campaign back in the 80s. And the gentleman who had that contract wanted to sell it to us for $10,000 per domain. And I said, no, even not possible. And so I sat with it for a moment and I said, you know what? What we're going to do is actually take back this whole notion of playing like a girl, and we're going to use in our public facing social media and web presence an I before play like a girl and use it as a declarative statement. And so that's how I shows up in our social media and our website, but also the I is also an inverted exclamation point in our name, in our logo, because we truly feel that what we are doing is changing girls' perception of themselves, of sport, and what sport can do in their lives. And so that's actually how we came about our name. And it's now been since 2012, I believe, since we actually rebranded. And I've learned more about branding that I should know, but I absolutely love it. We actually, after Sarah Fuller kicked as the first woman in a Power Five game last year, wearing "Play Like a Girl" on her helmet to raise money for us. We were propositioned by a number of brands to actually include our logo on some merchandise. And so it's wonderful to finally see that trademark actually living out in the commercial world. And so it's super exciting when we see little girls and moms and dads post their photos of their t-shirts and sweatshirts and socks that we've seen out in the market as well. So but trademarks and names and brands that have such resonance like Play Like a Girl can also be a lot of work, because you've got to follow up on all of those folks who are breaking the law and infringing on our mark. So yeah, it's work, but it's also a lot of pride and care taken, for the brand as a whole.
Of course, speaking about that moment with Sarah Fuller, what was it like? Obviously, that moment that she put that on the back of her helmet, and obviously what she's accomplished at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so one, she is continuing her studies at University of North Texas, right outside of Dallas. So she is very close to me, even still. So I'm super excited. She graduated from Vanderbilt last year. It came as a surprise. I was actually traveling back from my home in Dallas over the Thanksgiving holiday to Nashville, and I got off the airplane, and my phone was like losing it, right? And then finally, one of my board members actually sent me a text message, and it started to cryptically make a little bit more sense. And then once I was able to, get to a place of settlement, I was able to finally open all of the social media posts and see. Prior to that decision, that one random act of kindness on the part of Sarah Fuller. She and I had actually had no personal contact. She had met my assistant during an organizational fair on campus, where student athletes are introduced to local organizations for internship and volunteer opportunities, service learning, and those types of things. And so she wanted to intern. She told me later with Play Like a Girl, but it just never fit into her schedule. And so when she was going to prepare to kick, she thought about how can I use my platform and do something that matters, do something that has an impact on little girls and can leave a mark in this moment for this organization. And she chose to do that without me knowing, which is why it was, such a welcomed shock. It was such a beautiful gesture, and it opened the door certainly to elevating Play Like a Girl again on a much different scale, a much different platform. But I'd say for me, the thing that was most telling of that whole experience was, weeks later, Sarah agreed to come to our mentoring program as a guest mentor and mentor girls that we were convening in the virtual space all across the country. And she, again, just is so graceful and so brilliant, and was able to give of herself even the more in this opportunity one-to-one with the girls that we serve. And so that's the real impact. You kick a ball, there's press about it, maybe a few stories, but it's really what you do in the life of the individual that truly lasts. And I still have girls to this day who ask, where is she? What is she doing? I want to be like her someday. So that to me matters a whole lot more than the press that we received as a result.
Of course, following obviously the press, what has it been like obviously since she's graduated and moved on and stuff? How
Well,
has
there is still interest. In fact, I just did an interview for an article with the Dallas D magazine, which is kind of a lifestyle magazine that follows the socialites of Dallas and tells the stories of real people living in the city. And one day, just got a random email and phone call saying, "We're doing a piece on Sarah. Would love to share your story and the story of Play Like a Girl." And so, again, that was literally just weeks ago. So she's not going away. What she means is not going away. What she represents is not going away. And then that amazing act, right, of kicking as the first female in a Power Five game and going on, to lead the team to wins, that will never go away, and it won't be forgotten, because that is now etched in history and has changed. I know it has the course of football for girls and women, today and in the future. So we celebrate and love Sarah, and bid her well. I know soccer is her first sport, her first love, and she's doing more of that with UNT. And I'm excited also because University of North Texas is actually one of the first universities that established a student-driven Play Like a Girl chapter. Right about the time I was leaving to come back to this side of the South on the East Coast. And so they're one of our longest running programs on a college campus. I'm proud of that too.
Of course, speaking about that, what is it like obviously having colleges represent Play Like a Girl?
Yeah, so again, another kind of full circle moment, because we have never actually initiated a formal program of our own. And in fact, we're kind of walking backwards into it. We had a number of young women who had graduated out of our middle school to high school and then to college program. And they wanted to stay connected with Play Like a Girl. A number of young women also who had done summer internships with us that year. And there was a request to start Play Like a Girl chapters on the campuses. And so there were 7 of them, and they did so. Bryant University, University of Alabama, Fairfield University, University of North Texas Southern, Methodist University also in Dallas, Collin College, which was actually run by a colleague who assisted as a volunteer when I ran programming there. And then ultimately, we have a chapter also at Queen's University in Ontario, Canada. The program at Fairfield happens to be the largest. We have over 300 college women who are actively involved. And so as we have evolved over time, it's now time to evolve the collegiate program. So a lot of them have not yet integrated STEM and STEM education into their programming. A lot of them also just focus on their collegiate members, and they're not actively engaging middle school girls, which is our target audience and population. So thus our decision, okay, let's go back and add some structure, and now really intentionally build out a campus-based program, not only for college women, but also high school women. So we're excited about that. Something we're hoping to roll out by the end of the year, no later than 2023. But it was the work of students, of young women who were moved by the work we were doing, who themselves have been impacted and changed in some way, who wanted to pay it forward to the next generation of girls, whether it be, again, among their peers or those chapters that are actually engaging middle school girls in their markets.
How has obviously college athletes such as Sarah Fuller and professional athletes helped you into obviously targeting those high school and middle school girls to obviously get involved?
Yeah, so we actually deliver programming in three major areas, our summer camps, after school clubs, and our sports clinics. And so sports clinics are solely run in partnership and by leagues, teams, and players themselves. And we've had the fortunate opportunity to work with athletes from the collegiate level, through to Olympians. In fact, we have 10 women Olympians who are actively signed on as Play Like a Girl ambassadors this year. So you'll start to see content from them come out on our social later this year, them also running their own Play Like a Girl field days, which are our camp program. So honestly, we could not deliver sport in the way that we do sport if we did not have the partnership of these women athletes all across the country. And so we've been fortunate to also be elevated in partnership nationally with the NFL Players Association. And so exciting things happening there. Even we've done some work on the local level with the Tennessee Titans, the Nashville Predators. In fact, our girls' next sports clinic is on the ice. We're playing hockey in just a couple of weeks to celebrate National Girls and Women in Sports Day with the Nashville Predators. We work very closely in soccer with the Nashville Soccer Club through our Target grant, which funds soccer and sport programming for girls locally. And then we are forever doing just about every other sport, including basketball, although we don't have the team here in our city. The Grizzlies are in Memphis, but our partners and friends at the Women's Sports Foundation and the WNBA actually crafted and customized a program for girls in basketball several years ago, and Play Like a Girl is a partner in that. So yeah, we honestly could not do sport the way we do sport if it were not for our partnership with teams, leagues, and players.
Of course, how has it been like being involved in women's sports leagues such as the NWSL, the PHF, and obviously the NWHL?
Yeah, so you name a couple others that we partner with in particular. And I'll also mention on the commercial side of things, on the business side of things, retail, we also have partnered with Bauer Hockey in that space. We played home to the NWHL National Championship several years ago, and basically partnered to bring hockey at the elite athletic level to young women. We actually just also sponsored a group of girls and moms and a few dads to go out to the collegiate competition that was just here in Nashville as well. So the girls also begin to see themselves kind of, along the path, right? It's a huge jump from middle school to a professional career or middle school to professional sport. So we want our girls to be able to see themselves in high school sport, in college sport, and then certainly in professional sport. But also we want them to see themselves off the court, off the field, running the backside of the office, running, the officials and being the officials, being the medical staff, and the scientists and engineers and data analysts also, which is why we bring our worlds of sport and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics together, because we know, one, that 94% of women in the C-suite played sport, 56% of them through college, that if we can use sport as the catalyst to get girls to college, we can completely change the trajectory of their lives. And if we introduce them and help them fall in love with these highly competitive, higher earning disciplines in STEM, we can potentially also break the intergenerational cycle of poverty for a lot of girls who otherwise would not have the same opportunity. So our work, again, is so critical to building bridges, building relationship, building community with both folks on the STEM side as well as the sports side. And so leagues like NWHL and companies like Bauer Hockey, in the person of Mary Kay Messier, who was also on our board, those are the folks who actually make this work happen, because they're doing it every single day, helping to translate our work into real impact for the adult woman, as it is also we're doing for the child. So yeah, exciting work, but definitely couldn't be done without those partnerships.
Of course, with y'all being located first in Dallas, what has it been like obviously working with the Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Wings?
Yeah, so we actually worked with the Dallas Wings, and in fact, one of their executives is still a very dear friend of mine today. She's moved on from the Wings, but we continue our relationship. You know, honestly, there's no city like Dallas. I lived in Atlanta, Nashville, and New Orleans before Dallas, but when it comes to sport, there is no city like Dallas. One, you've got every major sport represented. You've got the woman expression of sport also represented. And so you've got fabulous women like Nancy Lieberman, who are also continuing to have amazing impact. And then in the state beyond, you've got Kim Mulkey, at the time, who was actually one of our first Play Like a Girl honors recipients, which is our big gala we host biannually. It's just like the right community, the right place, with St. Marshall, at the head and helm of the Mavericks, with, the young lady, with her and her dad. I don't know why her name is escaping me in this moment, but with the Cowboys even, and all of the women who I've worked with in non-traditional sport or the D-League sport side of the teams that are there in the city. Women in Dallas have such a place of prominence in sport, and that excites me. And I think I brought with me all of the things that I learned from those relationships that were established in Dallas. So no, nothing has been lost. I think we've probably enhanced our environment and community here in Nashville because of our Dallas experience. And we probably cross fertilize at this point, such that Dallas is also getting a little bit of the Southeast, a little bit of Nashville.
What has it been like, obviously, with you working with the WNBA and the NWASL? What has that been like, obviously, having those players like Bella, who's with Dallas, and Sabrina Ionescu with New York, help y'all in that process?
Yeah, so again, I think the most powerful thing is really to see the light in the eyes of the girls who see themselves in these women, these amazing persons off the court and off the field, right? In our role as U.S. Women's Soccer League, She Believes ambassadors, Play Like a Girl is, we play a huge role in really how we message to young women around life and the balance of life, if there's any possibility of that. When you are an athlete, how to be healthy, how to be whole, how to be well, how to be mentally astute and put together while struggling, often facing difficulty around even equal pay, equal play, fair pay. Um, we are in a really interesting position as a nonprofit in that we can to help sound the alarm, but also advocate, right, for both the side of sport that isn't the prettiest, and the people who are impacted, right? Because what we are trying to do is create the environment with the support networks necessary for our girls who dream of being where they are, right, to eventually get there, but to not have the same struggles. In this last year, it's been amazing to get into race car driving and partnering with IndyCar and Penske with in the Indianapolis 500 and Indianapolis Motor Speedway, even with NASCAR, to begin to also show our girls in those more male dominated sports where there is very little visibility for women, a whole team, not just in the seat of the car, but a whole team behind establishing the team, the women who make the tires with Firestone, with Beth Peretta, the one who organized the team and funds it and oversees it and manages it, and hopefully is bringing it back for another season this year. Then you look at all of the partner and sponsor organizations like Money Lion, who again is funding this huge initiative, who says, hey, we are so committed. We're going to come in and we're going to partner with Play Like a Girl to also bring vital and critical financial education and literacy to girls in your program. So our work spans so many partnerships, so many areas of impact that an hour wouldn't do it justice. But what I know now that we're seeing our first girls go to college is that it is truly changing their trajectories. Story of one of our girls, Hannah, who is now in school to be a fashion designer. She's a business major, a fashion and business major. And I recall Hannah completely hating math. And her mom was a school teacher, so typical story, right? And today, she can tell you about how math has shown up in her life in so many relevant and important ways in her love of design and fabrics and all of the beautiful things that are required to make jewelry and clothing, which is what her passion is in now. And so, again, to understand the value of math, to cut out a pattern, to write a pattern, to do all of the things necessary, right, to sell your product, to run an e-commerce business. Like, she gets the math side of it, but she's also able to marry the math with this amazing gift and craft around design and fashion, while again doing a little juggling of her own balls in sport as well. So our work has evolved to a place where it's oh my God, it's so exciting to see just the world of possibilities open up for our girls, that they're not one track. You don't have to just do sport. You can do sport, and you don't have to just do STEM. You can do STEM and then what we also recognize is that not every girl is going to pursue a career in STEM or sport. So we really work to partner with women who can be role models and mentors to our girls in all dimensions of life, all careers, all industries, and all vocations, so that girls know that there are so many other possibilities available to them.
Of course, with Play Like a Girl, how has it been like obviously seeing the PHF and the NWSL, I'm sorry, and US women's soccer change and obviously have equal pay and have more change in that world for women
Yeah.
sports?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we're one of the She Believes ambassadors and partners with U.S. Soccer. And, there was recently a film all about the fight for pay equity. And I will say that, this has been an unearthing, right, for everyone involved, be it the executives running the federation to the players who are on the field whose lives are truly touched by the dollars that come or don't come into those bank accounts. So for us, this has been a vital opportunity for us to educate our girls. And that's where that financial education piece comes in. We recognize the importance of knowing about money, truly understanding money, so you also can make the right decisions about money. That young women who are going to go on to pursue careers in sport and even beyond sport, but let's take sport alone, to be able to now own your own brand as a college student. Now, that sounds great. But to someone who has never managed a bank account, who's never literally written a paper check, there is some education that needs to happen before that. There's some equipment, right, that needs to happen, some equipping and preparation and training for those young women to also be able to manage the money that comes as a result of their brand, to be able to negotiate the best scholarships and contracts as they continue to go on to pursue their game, and then ultimately to be able to save and invest so that they actually have something after the career is done. Now, yes, while we, in one sport, one league may be closer to parity when it comes to pay, there's still a significant gap for women across not just sport, but just about every single other discipline and career in this country. So we have a much bigger, bolder problem to face. And that takes true true partnership, true commitment, and some bold, courageous women and some very important male allies to truly make some change. And so we've been fortunate to be on the side of this work, both in our relationship and work with US Soccer, but also with ESPN. But for us, we'll stay out of the noise, right? That's not our space. But what we will do is take from the noise the lessons that can be learned so that we can start earlier with the population that we do serve, have the greatest impact we can on them, so that perhaps these aren't the same challenges that they're facing in 5, 10, 15 years from now.
What are some of your future plans with Play Like a Girl?
Well, I'll tell you, after 17 years of an organization that wasn't intended to be here this long, I've run it now for almost 12 years without salary or benefits. I actually just brought on 2 brand new full-time staff persons. So that honestly is my future plan. It is developing Tiffany and Kaylin to be the next generation of Play Like a Girl, to really support them in reaching their goals on the programmatic side as well as development. Certainly to produce the outcomes affiliated with their jobs, to reach more girls, to deliver more impact, and to raise more dollars, to do more of that. But I often say our mission is for women, by women, for women. And it is important for me now as an employer to be able to develop these 2 young women into the best that they can possibly be as young professionals in this space. And the work, yes, is important, but we can't forget the people. And so I'm very invested in the time that I have left in my seat as CEO to help them develop a team within our board of directors, as well as our board of advisors, who can assist them and help to grow the organization fast. As I know that we have been slower to grow because we've not had the staff to do so. So my commitment is really honestly to growing and developing my staff and making sure that they are solid gold, as they look forward to the next, year to 3 to 5 years. So no real big strategic goals as an organization. Of course, we always want to grow, but we can't grow unless our people are growing, and unless they're happy, and especially in the middle of a pandemic that has been as difficult as it is. Mental health and wellness is vital and important. Some of the things that we did when bringing on these young women is that we built in mental health days, respite after major events. The nonprofit sector can be a lot on one's wellness, on one's physical body, emotional as well. And so we recognize that and want to provide opportunity for our employees to be able to restore after they've worked hard on a big sprint project, and then start afresh for the next one. So we actually, as a company, will celebrate National Mental Health Day, April 27th now for the rest of our existence. We also are a COVID vaccinated and boosted company. So that way, when we're out running programming in our community, there won't be the fear that somehow we're bringing the virus with us, as we implement programming, both with partners and with schools and girls. We also have flexible holidays and vacation time in addition to the traditional 15 to 17 federal holidays, where employees can actually take their holiday or vacation whenever they want. And then we have, just again, those seasonal opportunities where when work is slower than normal, like in summers, because we work on a school schedule, there's opportunity for the team to work 2 days from home instead of going into their office space. So for me, as the CEO and the founder, the leader of the day-to-day, with the support of an amazing board of directors, I am really focused on a healthy staff that can take on whatever lies ahead to be able to sustain what I've been able to build and keep going for almost 18 years.
What are some of the things that the people that are listening, my listeners, can do to obviously help the movement of play like a girl?
Yeah, so I've talked a lot about role models and mentors and the importance of women standing in the gap and being that brilliant expression to girls of what is possible. So that's where I'll start. I encourage anyone who's interested in mentoring, and we actually do continue our virtual mentoring program, connecting girls with women in locations outside of Nashville and Dallas and Alabama and all of the other cities where we are. I encourage them to go to our website. We have 2 pages, role models and then mentors. So if you go to those pages, you're able to easily and quickly sign up. Our ambassadors page, if there's an individual who is an elite athlete and current as well as past, and really wants to leverage their platform in athleticism to really help us spread our message and grow, those individuals can go to our ambassadors page. Volunteers, we have a volunteer page on our site. It's not currently populated because we're just coming back after the holiday and Omicron is wreaking havoc, so we don't have any programs running currently, but there will be some. And then ultimately, for anyone who is interested in making a gift, of course, anywhere on the page, you can find our donation form. There's also opportunity to start your own fundraiser. So I just encourage people to visit iplaylikeagirl.org, find the space and place for you that feels natural and right. Don't be led to do one thing or the other. Do the thing that you feel most passionate about. Because I truly believe that when people give from their space and place of pure joy and happiness, they stick with it longer and they have a much greater impact in the lives of the girls they serve.
What advice would you give those people looking to start their own women's sports What advice would you give people looking to start their own women's sports nonprofit organization?
Well, often I say don't do it. And I'll say the same thing today. Nonprofit work is hard work, like any other work. But we have tons of organizations like Play Like a Girl that already exist that just need amazing people who are willing to bring to bear their skill sets, their knowledge, their experience to help catapult that organization forward. So I encourage people, instead of starting something new, support something that exists. Help build, help to grow something in your own local community. Bring Play Like a Girl to your market. Again, we have a toolkit. It's turnkey for Play Like a Girl field days. We actually have new programming for our corporate partners. We work a lot with technology and women-based ERGs or employee resource groups within companies. We also work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space with some support this year from Nike and its Until We All Win program initiative. So do something that matters in your local community by actually helping to build and grow something that already exists, or bring something that already exists into your market that's not there. Try that first. And if it's not the right fit, if it's not the perfect thing that you think you are able to deliver and have impact, then consider perhaps starting a nonprofit. But even then, I'd say do something else. I love the work, but it takes a special person to be able to do this work, to do it in the highs and the lows, and to simply get the return of, again, the stories, the faces, the pleasure and excitement that you get from the girls themselves.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Play Like a Girl?
Yep. So I'm Dr. Kim Clay on Instagram and Twitter, as well as my full name, Dr. Kimberly S. Clay, on LinkedIn. So I encourage people to go out there. You can also follow Play Like a Girl on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have a TikTok. We're not quite ticking or talking, but one day soon we'll be on TikTok as well, doing some good sporty stuff, as well as some STEM hacks to keep people, excited about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics during a crazy time outdoors. So yeah, that's where folks can find us. I Play Like a Girl, or Dr. Kim Clay.
Thank you again, Dr. Kimberly Clay, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with Play Like a Girl.
Thank you for having me.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Dr. Kimberly Clay, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.